welcome to Community Property, you sick slices of shit. Thanks always for listening to the show. Thunderstroke and I are blessed with having a guest on the show today. Coming up your cockhole all the way from the East Coast, a hardcore metalhead fuckhole of a son of a bitch, the one and only Dubinator. We also call him Dubs, and you can call him that too. Today we're going to discuss the top 9 heavy metal vocalists of all time. So pull your pants back up and go wake up your fat ass wife, because we're going to give you a heavy metal edumacation. I'm Hatch Coltrane, and this is Community Property. Bitches.
Welcome to episode 3. Today we have a guest, Dubs. Thanks for coming, Dubs.
Say hi, Dubs.
Hi, Dubs.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yep.
He has a vast collection of VHS and cassette tapes.
He's older than all of us, which I'm going to remind him of several times during the course of the show.
Just means I have more knowledge.
So today we're going to discuss...
That's what it means.
Top vocalist.
Top 9. We usually do top 10s.
We're each going to take 3 picks. We're going to give reasons for said picks.
And then we're going to summarily eradicate one another's picks, but we'll save that for the rest of the show. Dubs, you want to give you a little intro, or you just want to get right to the list, man?
Intro for what?
I don't know, introduce yourself to both of our fans.
I think both of your fans probably know me.
Yeah, they probably do, you're right. Fuck the intro, let's just go right to the list.
I might create a fake YouTube profile and give you a little criticism.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Dubs was a roommate of mine back in 2000. And Hatch used to come over and party with us all the time.
I've known
Sure.
Hatch
Let's go back.
since 93,
94, something like that. We do this every episode, too. We age ourselves, talking about VHS tapes and Columbia House and shit like
Right.
that. Who wants to go first on the
Wrap that
list?
shit up.
Do you want to go first, or do you
No.
would you rather go? Okay.
Your show, I'm just guessed. You guys are...
Now, I just want to clarify that this doesn't necessarily mean this person has the best vocal range. He can hit the best falsetto.
Yeah.
It might just be the best frontman for the band. It might be the guy that just fits within that
Right.
style. And again, our show is heavy metal. And you're not going to get ABBA on here, although I fought to get him in there.
I jerked off to them a lot in the 1970s. Speaking of aging myself.
Right.
Well, that's one thing that we should spend a minute talking about is the criteria for being a vocalist and what it means to be a good vocalist as opposed to, say, a singer in a band whose style happens to meld very, very well with that band. My favorite example is Tom Araya. Nobody's going to mistake Tom Araya for fucking Pavarotti, okay? But within the songs that Slayer writes, with the vibe that Slayer creates, and the way that he sings the songs within the realm of Slayer, Tom Araya is absolutely perfect. No one else could jump in behind the microphone and do the exact same thing that he does with them. I kind of avoided those guys on my list. I was actually looking for guys who, what I would call range vocal.
I mean, I'm a singer. I like guys who can do what basically is a vocal version of a sweep pick arpeggio.
Right on.
Outstanding range. We gotta have passion, emotion, and I do understand what you're saying. I think there should be another category for guys that just fit bands.
Sure.
And there also should be another category for a workable vocalist.
Sure.
But an awesome frontman.
Sure. Well, think about how many bands are there where they actually replace the vocalist and get better? Iron Maiden's about the only one that I can think of. They weren't bad before they got Bruce Dickinson.
There are some bands where they replaced the vocalist, and I didn't like it. Now, the vocalist was probably pretty good, and I may have liked him if he had started out with the band. Probably a good example is Anthrax, when Joey Belladonna
Sure,
left.
absolutely. John Bush
replaced Joey Belladonna. I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either.
He's probably a good singer.
He was an Armored Saint, and I didn't like him in Armored Saint, so I didn't like him in Anthrax.
Let me bring up Slayer again, because remember, Slayer, in my opinion, has the best drummer of all time, Dave Lombardo. Prelude to a future show.
From Grip 8.
Remember, for 3 albums there in the middle, and actually right now, Paul Bostaff is their drummer. And Paul Bostaff is a fantastic drummer. I'm not trying to disrespect him at all. But the quality of the records is still on par with what Dave Lombardo recorded. It's possible to replace an instrumentalist seamlessly. I think it's a lot more difficult to replace a vocalist and have it be seamless.
Right, and I went to what you were saying. Honestly, I like the drums, and God hates us all best.
We're going to end up doing Slayer podcasts as we do on.
Spoiler alert.
Let's move on. Let's kick it off with Hatch's numeral tres.
That's number tres in Spanish. My number 3 vocalist of all time is Philip Labonte. Probably most notably from All That Remains. I think that this guy is fantastic, not only at what he does, but he can actually step outside of the boundaries. His style and the style of the songs that All That Remains does, they require him to have the deep, guttural, staccato type, not screaming, but more of like a grumbling, groaning sound. However, in some of their songs, he will also break out into fucking church choir singing voice simultaneously, and he does it effortlessly. I've seen these guys live 3 times. Perfect singing.
He also toured with Killswitch Engage. I didn't listen to a whole lot of All That Remains. What's their song that was pretty popular? Their new metal song. They're considered new metal, are they not?
Probably by...
They are now. The first 2 albums, they would be more thrash. Because there was no...
This Calling...
Deepest Grey.
This Calling was probably their first
single.
But their first breakout, I'm saying, you know,
right.
Like basically what got them out of bars and got them into Ozfest was once they released This Calling. And actually, was This Calling in one of the Hostel movies? I don't know, we'd have to look that up, but whatever. Philip Labonte is my number 3 pick.
And he was in the United States Marine Corps, so I got a little bit in common. With this guy.
Hoorah!
He was probably a pogue. Hopefully somebody has that info.
He started in Shadows Fall on the album Summer's Eyes to the Sky, and it's a brilliant, brilliant album with buried death metal vocals, Between Silence and Solitude. That was the first All That Remains. Not very good. It was very monochromatic, same vocal the whole thing. This Darkened Heart, you know, it's just a pure thrash, almost what Beefcake the Mighty does in like Cool Place to Park, the original Beefcake. That kind of just scream. And then, honestly, I almost couldn't listen to him anymore after that album. I mean, I do appreciate anybody that can sing really heavy and sing light and everything else, but I prefer like Chad Gray from Mudvayne.
Well, it's official. Dubs is hating on my number 3 pick.
Nice.
Hey, they were my favorite band for a long time. I told all you guys about them when I first heard them.
Just not anymore. Thunderstroke. You want to move on to your number 3 pick?
Mike Patton. Most notably, Faith No More, and I know I pissed Dubs off quite a bit at the Metal House by playing Faith No More. I think that I cheat. When people ask that question, if you'd be stranded on a desert island, name 5 CDs that you would bring. Who Cares a Lot is always one of my picks. I suppose I would have to pick Angel Dust, if you had to pick one of them. I call them F&M. I play on Eminem, so the word F and M, Faith No More. A little bit about Mike Patton. Mr. Bungle, Tomahawk, Fantomas. He lives in San Francisco and Italy. He replaced Chuck Mosley from Faith No More in '89. Chuck Mosley had drug and alcohol problems. Pop quiz: who else female used to sing?
Courtney Love.
Who? Courtney Love used to sing for
and who were you talking to?
You.
Oh, Dubs?
Yeah.
All right.
You might have just brought up another example of a band where they replaced the lead singer, and it's seamless. They're actually better after they replaced the lead singer.
Freaking amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I like that pick, by the way.
What really ticked me off was Epic from Faith No More is on VH1's One Hit Wonders. Anybody who knows me has heard me rant about this. What pisses me off about that is it's One Hit Wonder because it plays in the top 40. I remember when William Shatner was hosting that episode of VH1 One Hit Wonders, and they said Faith No More, and I was just like, which song are you talking about? Because one hit, I get it. It was in the top 40, it's the only one that made the top 40, but the part of wonder, okay, are you wondering what they did after that? Because everybody knows what they did after that. They're still touring. They just toured in 2009.
I think they're still touring right now in certain places. They're just not in North America.
Or if you wonder, how did they ever get a top 40 hit?
No, One Hit Wonders always meant the person that had one awesome hit. The Wonders, like wonderful.
That's exactly it. Like they had a small victory, falling to pieces, everything's ruined, Dig in the Grave, Last Cup of Sorrow. I mean, I can go on and on. Just amazing, hit after hit. They even had an awesome cover of Easy by Lionel Richie.
With or without the Commodores.
The first VHS tape that my friend Paul ever stole.
You gotta bring up VHS again, man.
You fat bastards. And I love that. And one of the things I like about Mike Patton is he throws into their little New Kids on the Block.
Nice.
How old are we? In the middle of...
They're still touring, by the way.
In the middle of We Care a Lot.
I just vomited a little bit into the back of my mouth from saying.
So yeah, if you wonder how they came from out of nowhere. And once I started listening to those guys, I mean, I played the shit out of those guys, and it took me years. I was still stumbling across tracks that were just so amazing. I loved.
The part for me that kind of gets a little under my skin with the concept of a one-hit wonder in the song Epic for Faith No More, that was on the record,
The Real Thing.
The Real Thing, that's right. And that's not even their best record. That's probably their third best record.
Yes.
Angel Dust belongs on Mount Rushmore of heavy metal records, and King for a Day is better than the real
It's
thing.
second only to Angel Dust.
I agree with that, totally. I struggle with the whole concept of a one-hit wonder when that's not even their best record. It's not even number 2.
Mike Patton, and discussing his vocal range, and this is probably one of the guys that can actually sing that's going to make my list. I have kind of weird taste in music.
No.
I think we all do, actually, but Mike Patton said, I think that too many people think too much about my lyrics. I am more a person who works more with the sound of a word than with its meaning. Often I just choose words because of the rhythm, not because of the meaning, and that's very apparent in some of their songs, and that's why I love some of their songs. Some of their songs are just random gibberish or just craziness.
Well, the guy's certified crazy, too. So that helps.
Perfect.
Maybe a little
If you're
bit of
a fan.
substance abuse thrown in there, just a tad, I don't know.
How crazy do you think the three of us are, too?
What?
So,
We're not certifiable.
And we
I
don't
think you're
abuse substances right now.
even Land of Sunshine, the lyrics come from L. Ron Hubbard. He's been known to touch on crooning, falsetto, screaming, operatic, death growls, rapping. He was on Sepultura's Look Away. He's done a lot of guest work. He's just a versatile singer.
He can also do pop. You already mentioned Easy, but there's also, check it out on YouTube, where he's singing Poker Face by Lady Gaga.
And what's the video? One of our old roommates from the Metal House landing strip. He looks exactly like him in that video. Everything's ruined. And I think his niece is in that video. But he looks exactly like Landing Strip in that video.
Who the fuck is Landing Strip?
The way he got that nickname, and we won't name him by name because I think his wife will strangle him. He used to have a carpet in his
A little
room.
square carpet.
Do you want to tell the story? Let me
Yeah, a little
Doug's the mic.
a little square piece of carpet, and he's left it in his room, and he would stand up over it and jack off and try to land his load on that strip. And sometimes if you walked into that room with your socks on and you stepped on that thing, it's like fucking piece of tissue paper stuck to your foot.
I inherited the room. If our old roommates, listeners, you want to throw some comments in with some landing strip quotes or stories?
Or if you have your own anecdotes
Look at you,
involving
look at me.
severe onanism.
If you can top that.
You know, if you can outdo that, we want to hear about it.
We're going to throw it over to Dubs, and we're going to hear Dubs' number 3 pick.
My number 3 pick, anybody that's known me for any amount of time knows my number 3. Top 3 have never changed in many years.
If you think you know Dubs, go
Call
ahead.
in at 1-800.
Make your predictions on his behalf right now.
All right.
Go.
Number 3, all time, World Dane.
What do you see in the center of the public eye? Rock stars on smack and a serial killer prize.
Got to start in the band Sanctuary, and I believe 86. That album was actually produced by Dave Mustaine. Dave Mustaine founded Sanctuary.
87?
87.
Refuge Denied?
Refuge Denied was 87. World Dane started off on the really high-pitched part of vocals. He went to a Judas Priest concert and it changed his life. He decided that's how he would, that's what he wanted to do, is sing. Refuge Denied was a very high-pitched album. He has a great falsetto and also vibrato on top of that. He's also the first person I ever heard do that, what Manson became famous for. That low talk,
Give us an example.
like every fucking Marilyn Manson song ever written.
You mean like Sweet Dreams?
that low,
Because he wrote it.
that shit.
Right. Almost like a chanting kind of a little bit.
No, just that low talking like that.
Automatic poet
Onomatopoetic.
whispering.
Right.
Barry White ain't got shit.
And then,
World
and then
Dane.
around, right before 1990, they had an album called Into the Mirror Black, one of the greatest albums of all time. Coincidentally, the top 3 of my vocals are also my top 3 albums of all time. In the
Spoiler alert.
Same order. Brilliant album. If you ever seen the tattoo I have of World Dane, the lyrics around it are from this title track
You have the tattoo of
of World Dane.
the guy
Yeah,
on you?
yeah. I have 2 of my favorite vocalists tattooed on me.
Who's is the other on your list?
Yeah.
Alright, then we'll mention him later.
And then he went on to be in Nevermore. Nevermore probably became more famous than Sanctuary because Sanctuary only released 2 albums. Sanctuary is supposed to have an album out last year called The Year the Sun Died, meaning the Mayan calendar. So it'd be kind of stupid to release The Year the Sun Died in 2013.
Where did you first hear Sanctuary? Because I never heard them. I mean, I grew up same time as you guys, and a lot of your picks, a lot of bands that I came across later, I'm just like, how did you guys hear about these?
Honestly, it was
Columbia House.
Columbia House. It was. My brother was ordering some CDs.
I'm not bullshitting.
No, my brother's ordering some CDs, and he didn't. It was like, here, like 1 left, and I was like, take that, Sanctuary. That sounds cool. I got it. I didn't really listen to it a lot, and then I saw the video for Future Tense on MTV's Headbangers Ball, and it blew me away. And then I started listening to it, and then I really got into Mirror of Life, and I went back and got into Refuge to 9.
It sounds like he's a Luddite. Off of his Wikipedia page, it says he has mixed feelings towards the advancement of technology. Is that a Neil?
He does a lot of songs about that shit. He's very anti-religion.
Metal usually is not.
Yeah.
Scott Stapp.
Your boy.
No, yeah, I left him off at number 4. He would have been number 4.
Meeting your idols.
I've met 2 of the guys on this list. We went to Nevermore finally played in Cedar Rapids at one point, and I think
where the hell is Cedar Rapids?
I don't know. This place called Big Dogs.
Like wine.
Wow.
Right. This place called Big Dogs, and World Dane had long blonde hair always down to his waist for every time I've known him. They broke up for a while, and they never put their pictures on the Nevermore album, so you didn't know what he looked like anymore. I saw this guy with like the shoulder length blonde hair, was kind of straight like World's was, and he went walking by, and I was like, shit. So I looked at it. I ran over to Nevermore's t-shirt vendor, and I was like, hey, is that guy over there World Dane? He looks around. He's like, where? I go, I don't know. There's a guy right there. And he's like, I don't know. Where's he at? I'm like, he was right there. He's like, what do he look like? I'm like, he had blonde hair about down here. He's like, you asking me if that's World Dane? And he goes, no, I am. I'm like, well, shit. He had red hair, giant septum piercing. But I spent the whole rest of the night after Nevermore performed, just got fucking shit-faced at the bar. I spent $90 buying those guys drinks.
And that was in the 1980s, man. You buy a lot of beer.
Yeah.
Is he World Dane? No, I am.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's done his own solo project, the World Dane out. You know, he has it under his own name.
Sure.
Great singer.
Moving on to the list. All right. I'm going to give everybody a break here so they can Google Cedar Rapids. And then I'll come back.
And Ed Helms.
Then I'll come back to my number 2 pick. All right. Now that everybody knows where the ethanol capital of the world is, my number 2 pick is Corey Taylor, the lead singer from Slipknot and Stone Sour. This is sort of in line with what I was saying about Philip Labonte of having the range. I was thinking about this when Thunderstroke, when we were talking about Mike Patton. I think Corey Taylor and Mike Patton both have a certain quality to their singing. They can make their voices sound crazy. They can make their voices sound insane, kind of twisted and out there. I don't want to say alternative because that's another show. They can get away from a straightforward heavy metal voice style. So if anyone's listening, maybe you can describe it a little bit better than I can. Corey Taylor's range, a lot like Philip Labonte. He can do the deep, guttural, staccato, machine gun fucking vocals, and then he can bust out into something that might be on Broadway.
I think part of what I liked too was just when they came up with the whole mask thing, and it was so new. It was actually Dubs that turned me on before I moved in with him at the Metal House. It was just like, the first time I heard it, it just blew me away. I think Only One of Us Walks Away was the first song. I think that he had it queued up on a cassette tape. Dubs made me a mixtape.
That wasn't.
Oh, man.
that wasn't Corey Taylor. That was Andrews.
Oh, cut.
You stand corrected, yeah.
We listened to a lot of that. We've actually went to see Slipknot in concert. I don't know how many times. And not only that, one thing that I wish you hadn't missed out on, and I'll post some photos. We went out as Slipknot for Halloween. I made a Corey Taylor mask for someone else. I made several masks, but that was actually the most fun to make. I mean, we can discuss vocalists and frontmen all day long. Not just like the masks and the whole stage present, the costumes, the entirety of it all. Just is phenomenal. And he's the only dude that sings with 9 guys in the band. Most bands default to having other singers and stuff, and he handles it on his own. It's great.
They don't have a large amount of backing vocals either, or harmonizing voices or anything like
that.
that.
That's all you need.
He covers the bases
They
himself.
do a lot live. They do it like where not Sid, but Kristen and
Crane? Sean?
might be Crane. They'll do the raw. It actually makes the song worse. They do like some of the heavy stuff that was over top of Corey when Corey's already doing it. So I'm like, why are you doing that?
It overdoes it a little
Yeah,
bit?
they just kind of go raw and scream into it. And it sounds like shit.
Dubs and I, we went to a costume contest downtown at Vito's, the Purgatory Sideshow.
Yes.
We dressed up. I dressed up as a clown, and Dubs made a homemade Corey Taylor costume.
Before anybody knew who the hell they were.
Dead fucking last. Yeah. I think a couple weeks later, they played on Conan O'Brien.
Right.
I was at the bar and I made them turn off all the music, and people were like, "What the fuck are you doing down there in college, listening to this weird shit? Like, what is this?" And then they got huge. Everybody was like,
I got into Slipknot, not as much as the other guys that lived at the Metal House, through Meat Feet Toward Pete. And then when Taylor joined the band and they made the self-titled album, all those guys fucking hated it because it wasn't Andrew singing, and it didn't have the guitar, so it didn't have Josh on it, And I just thought, fucking A, this is the shit. Mm-hmm. You know, what I've always said is Corey Taylor's his heavy on that album. Absolute emotion, rage put to music. He's so heavy when he sings that way. He's got a great singing voice. You know, like Vermilion or Snuff are just amazing. This guy's a great singer.
Well, we didn't even mention he was in Stone Sour.
Yeah. That's
one song that I don't really like a whole lot. I think it's a little soft.
At you through the glass. Don't know how much time has passed.
It demystifies the idol. You know, you get to see him not only with his mask off, but then I think it's pretty soft music. I don't like it.
Right, but it's stuff he wanted to write, and he wanted to get back with Josh. And would you rather him write that shit as Stone Sour or put a Slipknot album without that stuff on it?
Get Inside was pretty heavy. Yeah, I don't know what I would... I guess the more the merrier, but it does take away. I think that's when I started to sort of sour on listening to Slipknot. They have a couple of songs here and there that I'm like, that's okay.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that Corey Taylor's work in Stone Sour reduces some of his accomplishments? Do you think it takes the edge off Slipknot?
Yes. It's hard not to blend those two bands. You know, whenever you think of Slipknot, you think Stone Sour. You think Stone Sour, and you come up with a list with Corey Taylor, and Stone Sour gets stamped on there.
All right. If anyone have anything else they want to say about Mr. Corey Taylor, if not, Thunderstroke. You are on the clock with number 2.
My number 2, I'm sure everybody's heard of. Valiant himself.
Who?
That's who I need to put it up in the air right now. Put it up like this.
From Valiant Thor. I saw this guy live. He really gets into it. Now, these guys are rock and roll. They are just rock and roll presence. And hopefully they gain a few fans if anybody's listening to this. And he's not the greatest singer. I'm not going to front. He looks like a hillbilly. And, you know, his voice isn't great. To me, that's impressive. That's why I like this guy.
Good reason to put him on Best Vocalist.
Yeah, it's somebody that can take a phenomenal drummer like Lucian Thor and a phenomenal guitarist. And, you know, he's surrounded by talented musicians, and he steps up to the plate. Valiant Thor, they're from North Carolina. Their CDs, Total Universe Man, Legend of the World, Immortalizer, Stranger, and their most recent release, Our Own Masters. My jean jacket has a huge Valiant Thor patch. I'm going to post a photo of that. It's over there for you guys to admire. Right under the Schlitz patch and next to the Cobra Kai.
Speaking of landing strip.
I made my daughter a jean jacket, and that has Valiant Thor patch. He usually says Alahoyas as a greeting. They're Venusians. The legend has it that there was a visitor from the planet Venus, and his name was Valiant Thor. They named their band after this guy from the 50s, and he said that they lived inside the planet, then they came to Earth to save us from total nuclear meltdown. You know, a Guar sort of thing without the costumes, not quite, but they're a little more about just the rock and roll. A great show. We took our friend Nige to see these guys in Iowa City. One of the best concerts I ever went to. The dude gets people into the show.
Would you put him as kind of one of the singers that we talked about at the top of the show? Maybe not the best singer, but for what the band is trying to do and the sound that the band produces and all things Valiant Thor, he gets the fucking job done.
He definitely does, and I think there are a lot of singers that if you replaced it with a guy that could hit more high C's over a G or whatever, could hit a falsetto, it wouldn't work with that style.
Sure.
He, not only that, you just watch one of their videos or you go see those guys live, he gets into it, he gets out in the crowd, he's climbing up on tables and swinging around on the rafters. He gets the crowd to get our hands in on a song called Tough Customer. He gets the whole audience into it. He does this great thing at the end of their CD. I believe it's on Legend of the World. It's like, you know what I'm talking about?
You know what we're talking about!
It's hilarious. It just encompasses the guy. They have a song where he introduces it. He goes, this is a song about the police of tomorrow. It's called Tomorrow Police.
That's profound.
It was great. It fit. He wears wrestling boots on stage, and he just says he's prepared for the shit to go down. I'd like to meet the guy. I'm surprised I didn't talk to him when they were at games. He donated a kidney in 2008 to his father. His father was diabetic and he had a kidney. He donated a kidney to his dad. I think the type of music that Valiant Thor reminds me of is, if you've ever seen the Techno Viking, you know, they just look like Norse Vikings, and the Techno Viking looks like he's the type of dude that would get into that shit.
Two things. When you say Norse Viking, that's a redundancy. And number 2,
I'm going to edit that out.
Go ahead and Google Gabe's, and then Dubs, you're on the clock with your number 2 pick.
You can't edit that out. Come on. That's
2.
All right, my number 2 is from the band Halloween, and the guy's name is Michael Kiske. Many people revere him as one of the prog metal gods. Had the internet existed back in the day, the big four as we know them would not be. Because Halloween was doing the same shit just across the pond, and nobody knew about it. Actually has a perfect pitch, which I think is a very important thing to be a great vocalist. It's not super important, but it sounds amazing. Just a goofball of a man. He's a goofy ass son of a bitch if you've watched any of their videos. He was on the Keep It 7 Keys Part 1, Keep It 7 Keys Part 2, and then the lesser known Pink Bubbles Go Ape and Chameleon, and then they finally decided that they wanted to go in a different direction. They got rid of him. After that, he released the album, two Michael Kiske albums. The only one I really know is Infinite Clarity, but the other one came out much later and I didn't even know about it because obviously you don't hear that kind of shit in America. And then at one point he said, I am done with heavy metal. Heavy metal turned its back on me. I'm turning my back on it. And he did like Through the Past differently, where he took a lot of the Halloween songs that he was responsible for and did them acoustically with orchestra and stuff. And it's pretty amazing stuff. And then so nobody heard from him, and message boards everywhere like, what's Michael Kiske doing, And then of course you got the people flaming it, saying, oh, Michael Kiske is a douchebag faggot now, he can't do metal and all this other stuff. But then all of a sudden one day I was just on YouTube looking up Halloween, and I see this thing called Unisonic, and it's Michael Kiske and Kai Hansen, the original lead guitarist of Halloween, who actually was the lead singer of Halloween on Walls of Jericho. He's the first lead singer. They did an album called Unisonic, and they have a new one coming out. It's not as awesome as Walls of Jericho even, but either of the Keeper albums, but it's really, really good. And if there's if there's any songs I would add, say, to listen to off of the Keeper albums, is March of Time and You Always Walk Alone. They're absolutely brilliant songs, great lyrics, amazing vocals. If you have Wikipedia, and they talk about his octave range, and I think they said it was 3, and I think maybe they don't understand what octaves mean.
His octave range?
Yeah, I think they say it's 3 on Wikipedia, which is mine's 5, so I know his isn't 3.
Wait, you're saying Wikipedia might have something wrong?
Right, exactly.
Bullshit! I'm calling bullshit on
They
that.
liken his singing style to.
They say
Bruce
World
Dickinson.
Dane is like. They say my number 1 guy is like 2 or something, and I'm like, really?
Okay. Well,
On almost 4 octave vocal.
4 octave range. Okay, that's about right.
Somebody fix that.
He never does that super high pitch. It's just a great, really solid vocalist. The guy has absolutely no trouble holding a note for 30 seconds, whatever he's doing, he does it flawlessly. Like I said, with perfect pitch, it's unbelievable.
Did you say, where's Halloween?
Germany. They come to America once every 10
Did you pick them
years.
because this is October?
That's pretty much it.
Right.
I've never heard of them before.
Right.
I knew it was October.
he's a Sagittarius, man.
Actually,
Give him a break.
Halloween. We all have Halloween shirts. Hatch gave me Slayer shirts with Halloween.
It's actually really
I'm
is.
sure you have.
It's the Slayer shirt that they made for Halloween, but it actually looks just like the Halloween pumpkin Halloween uses on all their albums.
Didn't they tour with them?
No.
Yeah.
I doubt it. Even back in the 80s.
Halloween
I
has
doubt
not come to America since 2007 or so. They come to America every 10 years, and this is one band of all my favorite bands, of everybody I've never met, never seen. They're the band I've never seen.
I would want to say one thing about Halloween. For me, the song that, when I think of Halloween, the vocal talents of Michael Kiske, I think of the song I Want Out from Keeper of the Seven Keys.
Yeah, and that's their most famous, part 2.
And that was basically my first exposure to those guys.
And most, it was everybody, most Americans.
Sure.
Although Eagle Fly Free's the best song on that album.
I think we're up to everyone's number 1, guys. You ready to do this?
Let's get to
right.
Hatch's
My
number one.
My number 1 is probably not going to surprise anybody. I am far from the only person to say that this person is the number 1 heavy metal voice of all time. There's really nothing new that I can say about Rob Halford. The heavy metal god, lead singer of Judas Priest, Fight, and he's done some solo projects, and there's probably a few others that I'm not even thinking of. If you want to talk about a range vocalist, the conversation begins and ends with Rob Halford. If you want to talk about the quality of a front man, he has to make your short list.
Yeah.
He absolutely has to. I don't know how he couldn't.
Chicks love him.
And he loves the chicks, too. If you want to talk about being a pioneer of heavy metal, Rob Halford has to make your short list. How about heavy metal as a style, or like the clothing and the presentation of the whole thing?
Way of life.
Absolutely. Listen to some early Judas Priest stuff. Listen to Sad Wings of Destiny. Listen to Stained Class. Listen to those albums in their entirety, and thank me later.
Turbo.
That's all I'm gonna. Turbo, don't get me going on that, man. Just don't go there.
Well, you mentioned clothing. A lot of the heavy metal look is leather and spikes. Halford created that,
It's
but it
pretty
was
much
more
attributed to him.
of his sexual orientation,
Right.
and nobody knew it.
He bought him at the.
So he made us all fags.
Although at least looking like it.
He bought him at the
was-
gay stores in Soho in London.
He was queer-eyed for the straight guy.
Wait,
For
what?
heavy metal parking lot. Now, if anybody hasn't seen that, you can't mention Rob Halford without me mentioning heavy metal parking lot from what is that, about 85, 86?
Something like
The
that.
era of tight jeans and mustaches.
Right.
And there's a great scene in there too where there's just chicks like Rob Halford is so hot, I would fuck him. There's a chick who is, I think she says she's 13 on there, and she's with a guy, and he says he's got a great mustache too, by the way. And you see a lot of Journey shirts in that parking lot too. He says he's well over his 20s. He's got his arm around, and they just start making out right on camera.
That's a day in the life.
It
for
may
them.
have not been strange back then, but
Yeah, it was.
do yourself a favor and watch Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Short documentary, it's great. They're out in the parking lot of a Judas Priest concert, and this is before Rob Halford came out. And I dubbed, you've probably seen him in concert at least once, haven't
I've
you?
never seen Priest.
I've never seen Priest live
I
either.
am stepping on my own feet.
That's one of my goals in life.
They're from-
I have to see these guys
They're
before
from Cedar
they.
Rapids. How the fuck?
That's a good
Not.
point. Great point. You know, shame on
They're
us,
young.
man.
As far as we were talking about guys replacing, Ripper Owens came in, and it didn't make the band better by any means.
What's the name of that movie?
But that's what I'm getting at. Ripper Owens came in, and they didn't make a great album, but they made a great movie. The movie Rockstar is based on Ripper Owens' life, replacing Rob Halford in a metal band. And the movie is actually originally called Rock God. Rob Halford, even though he has publicly said he hates the movie, has had a movie made about him.
I remember before I was even really into metal, back when I liked a lot of what was going on in MTV. They would play Billy Joel, then they would play Kiss, then they would play Twisted Sister, then they would play Pat Benatar. Judas Priest would come on, along with Def Leppard. They would be another band that I would turn it up. When I was a kid, I wasn't a metalhead.
Did you
back
turn
then.
up the radio when Autograph played?
You son of a bitch. You went there. That reminds me, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a little bit biased here, and I'm not going to totally age myself, but let's just say I was under the age of 10.
9.5.
MTV was still pretty young. They only had about 200 videos when they first started, so you'd see the same video over and over again if you're just diligent and kept watching. There was one video in particular when my parents would put me to bed at night. I'd wait for them to go to bed, and I'd wake myself up. I'd go downstairs, and I would wait for the Another Thing Comin' video by Judas Priest. I was like,
You wanted to see
fucking-
that mannequin's pants fall down.
No, I wanted to see his head blow up. And I was older when I got into the pants falling down, but I was like fucking Alex in A Clockwork Orange. My eyes were peeled open, and I was a drone in front of the TV, waiting for fucking Judas Priest, Another Thing Comin'. It was the coolest shit ever. They had leather and spikes. There's fucking fire all over the place. There's people getting killed. Fucking explosions. I was like 8, 9 years old. It was the most badass thing of all time. That video got me into heavy metal more than anything else.
Beavis and Butthead, breaking the law.
Scraping the jaw,
And speaking of
walking the
another
dog.
band that I got turned on to from Beavis and Butthead, my number one pick,
Dun 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 dun.
Skate Niggs. My number one pick, Phildo Owens.
I am Phildo, the motherfucking dildo. Suckers try to stop me, but they never will.
He was involved with Revolting Cocks, and he also did his own solo CD, which is great. It's called Snow Black, and he worked a lot with Al Jurgensen, Wax Trax, Revolting Cocks.
That Chicago record label.
Produced a lot of Phildo Owens stuff. They were working with Jello Biafra, and he did a lot of the production on their follow-up album. Their first album, Skate Niggs, was Stupid People Shouldn't Breathe. Their second album was What a Mangled Web We Weave. And to get Jello Biafra out of his hair, Al Jurgensen sent Jello Biafra to go work with the Skate Nigs. I wish I had seen those guys in concert. Came out around 92, 93. My friend Paul and I just used to rock out to that CD. They used a lot of sound clips from Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, but his voice style is sort of that Al Jurgensen Ministry sound, great lyrical content. I usually listen to the drums when I listen to songs, but it's one of the only bands where I'll sing along with the singer. I know a lot of the lyrics. Funny, meaningless rhyming stuff. Al Jurgensen said of Phil Del Owens that he's one of the 3 craziest sons of bitches he ever met. Now, that's saying a lot.
No shit. Pot in the kettle? My God.
Along with Gibby Haynes from
the Butthole Surfers.
Surfers.
What's his name in California?
Oh, he doesn't actually have a name in it. He wasn't
He does.
He's
Distortion Swells.
Distortion Swells and El Duce.
I hate it.
Yeah, he's a fucking douchebag from The Mentors. Kurt and Courtney. He was on Springer with Guar.
Most recently seen in his grave.
Yeah, you know what he did? Here's how crazy
soon, man.
that son of a bitch was some guys recognized him. Some kids recognized El Duce. Like, hey, it's El Duce. He was drunk and he was walking on the train tracks. He started dancing and giving Sig Heil signs, and he got his foot caught in the tracks. The train came along. That's all. He just Sig Heil'd the train and pow.
How come G.G. Allen didn't make this list? Probably because Al Jorgensen never met him, but that's got to be the only reason.
That's El Duce too, not Phil Del Owen. He worked with Screw on Burning Water, Drowning in Flames, another great CD. The opening lines from Horny for Evil, that's another thing I like about a frontman, is to be able to use sound samples, use lyrics to sort of help you out. To make the song a lot more full. You can sing so much, but you can also get a little help from movie clips. Chemical Imbalance is another song that they use with poet Laurie Jackson.
If immaturity is indeed a result of certain chemical imbalances,
who died in 1992. They just rock. It was a precursor to nu metal. I have a lot of good memories with a lot of songs that probably people might scoff at. My friend Paul and I go way back on listening to a lot of Skate Nigs and Life, Sex, and Death, a lot of that early 90s stuff that just rocked, and Phil Owens is just one of them guys I love to sing along with and pretend to fucking get crazy. Are you guys familiar with his work?
I actually know him a little bit more from Revco, actually, the Revolting Cocks. The one thing I got to say about Phildo, and actually the Revolting Cocks as a whole, get it? Revolting Cocks as a whole.
Your cock's pretty revolting.
Probably the best live show I've ever seen was seeing the Revolting Cocks open up for Ministry at the House of Blues in Chicago about 4 or 5 years ago. Fantastic live show. If you guys have the chance to go see the Revolting Cocks live, you have to do it. And you will not be disappointed. We promise you that.
He was also in Chore Boy, and I guess, do you know what a Chore Boy is?
A chore boy? Is that like Odd Job or
like
Random
a choir boy
Task?
without an eye?
Like steel wool that you clean
SOS
dishes
pads.
with, SOS pads. But in prison, they're pretty popular because you can break them apart and you put them in
your
your
asshole,
pipes. You can clean out all your paraphernalia with them. I guess one Chore Boy sponge, they're worth their weight in gold, and they'll last you whatever your sentence is.
Okay, so I'll keep that in mind next time I get sent to prison.
If you're 20, you might want to put a Chore Boy in your prison wallet.
Wait, what's a prison wallet?
Your man purse.
Everyone take 5 seconds to Google prison wallet.
Yeah, all I can say is about Skate Nigs is I only know the Beavis and Butthead thing. That's it.
That's fine. Don't worry about not having a lot of input because it's time for Dub's number one pick.
You're always
His number one
screaming
pick
it at the screen.
It's basically time for one. If you know Dubs, you already know who his number one pick is. But also, if you know Dubs, then you will know that it is time for Thunderstroke and I to step back from the microphone and just let this motherfucking freight train go.
Alright, so I'm not gonna beat around the bush. My number one is Midnight from Crimson Glory. And as you guys said, anybody knows me knows that this is always going to be the time. How I got into this band, me and I was staying over at D-Man's house, and I used to go up during the Headbangers Ball. On the weekends we'd stay up all night, play Nintendo and shit. And I used to have just record all Headbangers Balls, and I didn't record them straight through. If I saw a video I wanted to record, I'd record it. The only thing I knew about Crimson Glory is they wore these silver masks. And I'd seen a couple pictures in magazines. And I remember between games, I looked over and I saw the things that came across that said Crimson Glory, and I'm like, whatever that fucking is. But then these guys popped up with the masks on, so I hit record. It was their video for Lonely. And I believe, as far as I know, it was the only goddamn time that song was ever played on Headbangers Ball. I never saw it again. I just happened to record it that time. Went out and got tape the next day. Right, this is even before the long box CD.
In the video game capital of the world?
Yes, I did. I bought it at the video game
look that up.
Anyway, Midnight, insanely high-pitched vocals. Sing like an angel or roar like a lion. The guy is just go really heavy, like on Red Sharks if he needed to. He can go super high, I mean, even higher than Mariah Carey, who was at the time she was doing all this stupid-ass high falsetto shit. You listen to the breakdown right after the solo of Red Sharks, when he sings Bloody Red Sharks, it's just ear-piercing. But then he could also do like really mellow shit. He really, throughout the history of Crimson Glory, he really wanted to do more of that mellow stuff, and they didn't really want him to. They wanted to keep it heavy. What's weird about Crimson Glory is, if you think of musicians that were around at that time, every musician loves that band. Outside of musicians, nobody's fucking heard of them. They single-handedly invented American power metal. You had power metal with Halloween. It originated in Europe. American power metal is different, and Crimson Glory is cited for doing that. And, Dragon Force will tell you that. And they were a weird cross. They weren't just power metal, they were prog metal. They almost started that, too. Tony Midnight had these great vocals. What really drew me to him, he is so sincere in his vocal delivery. It's a lot of emotion. You can hear it in his voice. Their most famous song off of their self-titled album is Lost Reflection. I have 7 different live copies of Lost Reflection, and it's not sang the same either any time it's ever sang. The emotion quality in it is always different. It's just how he's feeling at that time. And if you want to look it up on YouTube, look for Crimson Glory, The Story of Lost Reflection. Really interesting story. It's just Midnight talking about the song.
If you go visit Dubs, he will play all 7 for you.
Yes, I will. I actually have one of their masks. I was told it's Ben Jackson's mask, but then apparently it's not. If you look at the pictures, it's obviously John Drang, the other guitar players. They started off as Pierced Arrow, then they went to Beowulf, and the first album was put out on Par Records. It had tremendous success in Europe. It didn't have a lot of success here. When it finally caught on a little bit, Par Records folded. So then Roadrunner, Road Racer at the time, picked them up for their follow-up album, Transcendence, which most people will say is a masterpiece. Jim Morris from Morris Sound Studio in Orlando recorded that album. And what's really interesting about it's a band that made a producer famous and a producer that made a band famous, because that fucking album is absolutely flawless in every bit of its production. And from that, Morris Sound became a very famous studio just based on how amazing that album sounded.
You're talking about the Jim Morris Sound.
Jim Morris from Morris Sound.
When he puts his pants on, he makes gold records. But go ahead.
Yeah, gold death metal records. Platinum, actually.
Fair enough.
No death metal band goes platinum. So.
I stand corrected.
Then they released an album called Strange and Beautiful. They were so well known within music circles. Atlantic Records bought them from Roadrunner, who is actually, and then Roadrunner is the parent company, MCA, moved Transcendence to MCA rather than Roadrunner because they wanted more distribution on it. How many bands at the height of their success switched major labels? Bad deal for Atlantic because the album didn't do shit. What Strange and Beautiful is, it's the greatest Led Zeppelin album not made by Led Zeppelin. They went downhill just rapidly. None of their core fans liked it. Draining blamed it on Midnight, even though I have John Draining on tape saying that the whole concept was his idea.
How'd you get that? Him on tape?
On a VHS tape.
Oh. Like, goddamn, you researched this episode.
But I found out recently that the reason it was called Strange and Beautiful, they put another album in 1999 with a new singer named Wade Black. It's called Astronomica, it's the album with Wade Black. A lot of the songs on Astronomica were actually supposed to be on Strange and Beautiful. It was supposed to be a 2-disc set. One side Beautiful, one side Strange. The Strange would be the heavy part. That album never made service. Atlantic just wanted the Led Zeppelin shit. Back in the early days of the internet, around 2000 or so, I find out that Midnight, he launched his website on Halloween night, and it was called the Midnight Mansion, and I became a part of that very early on, and I made a lot of good friends off that.
Did you look that up on Web TV? Is that what
yes,
you
I did. And the thing is, they had a clip of a song called Pain on my Web TV. It took 30 minutes to get this 2-minute clip to buffer, and then it would buffer while it played, but I listened to it constantly. Midnight tells everybody on his website that him and Ben Jackson, the guitar player of Crimson Glory, are going to go to Cooperstown in Cleveland and do a show. There was this prog metal fest going on there, but they were going to be in Cooperstown along with Doro Pesh and Seven Witches doing acoustic sets. I met a bunch of those guys there. I'm in my hotel room with this guy named Alan, and Midnight calls us, and he's like, hey, we're down in the lobby. And on the way down, I'm telling Alan's like freaking out. He's like, we're going to meet Midnight. And then I later find out that on the way up, Ben Jackson told me that Midnight said, I'm going to meet Dub. So it's pretty crazy. So Midnight, we became really close, and I talked to him several times, and then, as you guys know, he died a few years later. He did release an album on Black Lotus Records out of Greece called Cicada. Really different album. It met with mixed reviews. A lot of the core Crimson Glory fans couldn't stand it. I really think it's a great album. Before that, he had an album called M, which was acoustic set of stuff he was working on. It's just him singing with acoustic guitar for the most part. 100 copies that ever made. He gave it to his fans on the website.
How many of them do you have?
I just have one.
Oh.
It's autographed.
Of course.
By him?
Yeah. No,
I'd like to get in on
that thing was going for up to $2,000 on eBay. Original copy of that.
Righteous Box.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then he was working on an album called Descending into Madness, and it was a 3-disc album. I do have the track listing. There's a song called Mermaid. It shows his really beautiful voice, how he can sing really mellow. And then in contrast, like I said, in Red Sharks, Mask of the Red Death, old school Crimson Glory fans really liked. Descending into Madness never surfaced, and I still don't know if it ever will. Most of the songs are done. You can hear some of them on his MySpace page. Is still up.
MySpace?
Yeah.
Wow.
After he died, they put it up and put his date of birth, date of death.
I can't remember my AOL password to get on my MySpace.
Right. Goodbye.
I did sing Lady of Winter with Crimson Glory, and that was pretty fun.
That is awesome. You've got this all on.
No, because there was this guy, I was drunk as fuck, and there's this guy walking by.
No.
Yeah, they were practicing. It was the Ben Jackson group. This solo group was practicing, and then this is in Sarasota, Florida, and this guy was walking by, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And he's like, "What are these guys?" And I was telling him, like, "You don't even know. These guys have been around fucking. These guys toured with Metallica, Ozzy, everybody, you know." And I had my camera. I had like 10 minutes left on this tape, and I gave it to the guy. I'm like, "I'm gonna sing this song," and I go, "Just fucking film it, okay?" And I sang it. He filmed it. Next day I looked at it, he didn't fucking push record.
Yeah.
What a dick.
Yeah.
I say let's get him.
You said that guy was in Cedar Rapids? One thing that we mentioned before, he does a version, and I'm going to play a little clip of Through the Glass.
I'm looking at you through the glass.
Yeah, he said that he just really, really liked the lyrics, so he did put a version of Through the Glass,
From Stone Sour.
on his website or on his webpage back in the day. And Josh Rand actually emailed him and said that he really liked the version. He thought it was a great version.
Well, this is why we love having Dubs on the show, guys, because as you can tell, he leaves no stone unturned. There's no dust in his boudoir, you know what I'm saying? It's cool that you're that much of a fan. You follow not just the band, but also this one guy.
I mean, he's the guy. Alcohol something. I can't think of his
Alcoholic.
No, Alcohol. I can't think of his name. But he's a vocal trainer. He trained Jeff Tate and he trained Midnight. And when Midnight died, he basically said, "We lost the greatest fucking vocalist ever."
Okay.
Is he the same guy that trained James Hetfield?
Which I never understood how Midnight and Tate had the same vocal trainer. One's in Seattle, one's in Sarasota, Florida.
They're called long distance telephones.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No? Okay. By the way, Jeff Tate, I was actually considering Jeff Tate to put on my list. Very underrated singer in my opinion.
No, Midnight's way underrated. I mean, you got that fucking douchebag Eddie Trunk. Eddie Trunk sits there, and no disrespect to your number one. Eddie Trunk sits there and talks about how fucking amazing Rob Halford is, how amazing Bruce Dickinson is, and he talks about why they're so good is because of their range. And then when asked about Midnight, he's like, "I don't really like him." Like, how the fuck can you do that?
Well, but what does that have to do with Jeff Tate? I mean, that's...
He loves Jeff Tate, too. It blows my mind when people fucking worship one guy for the exact same thing that Midnight does better, or Lizzie Borden does better.
What if they haven't heard Lizzie Borden enough? What if they hadn't heard Midnight enough?
I think Eddie Trunk has.
You know that for sure. I mean, I think Eddie. If you want to talk about UFO or Van Halen, Eddie Trunk will school you. But as far as Crimson Glory, I think the safe money is on you, not Eddie Trunk.
There's another point that you mentioned. He's a musician that impresses other musicians. That means a lot. You can spit out a bunch of garbage, and you can impress the masses with a whole lot of stuff.
Pop radio.
If you really want to take yourself seriously, see how other musicians
How they judge you, right?
There are things that people don't even catch. People don't even know to look for. You put it in there. I do that as a drummer. Sometimes I try to do it because I know it might not be completely necessary, other than I know another drummer may be like, I caught that.
Yeah, I do that shit singing too. I mean, most of the shit I do you guys never heard, but
singers look up to him, and it's very important. I want to thank Dubs for coming by.
Any closing salvos?
Go fuck yourself.
That's pretty good. That's straight to the point right there.
Shout
no
outs.
fucking around.
We are about to have some t-shirts that we have, so look on the site for the shirts if you want one.
On the inner space, whatever that is.
Interweb.
Hit us up.
Oh, that? Did I say it wrong?
It's got
Inner Space is the movie.
any show suggestions that you might have for us. We did get a comment. Do you mind if I read it? Do you know this guy?
I've got a hater, apparently. Someone's flaming my shit on YouTube.
I gotta admit, Thunderstroke is awesome!
Boo.
Actually, he didn't write it like that. That was me ad-libbing. This guy, Hatch, sucks. And he even spelled it with an X, so, he wasn't fucking around.
Like,
this guy,
serious.
Right, so this kid's, what, 14?
If
He
that.
needs to get reels, man. Hatch don't know shit.
Don't bog me down with the details, whatever your name is. Make sure you just hit the high notes, okay?
I'm just glad we have a listener.
Right, that's what I'm saying, both of them, you know what I'm saying? Your wife and this guy.
If Hat did more of this shite, he'd be aight.
That guy's a poet.
Alright, well,
thanks for listening.
Actually, we should invite this guy onto the show sometime.
Exactly, if you're in Cedar Rapids.
You have Googled that, right?
Email us.
Okay.
Dubs is a Colts fan. Just got to throw that in. I think anybody knows Dubs knows that.
Better than being a Giants fan right now.
That's right.
All right.
Ooh, that hurts.
Community
That
Property,
hurts.
Episode 3.
That's a wrap, motherfucker.
But my dog